The Soul Chaperon, written by Jason M. Burns. Narrated by Jason M. Burns. Season 1, A Tough Nut to Crack. Episode 1, The Spruce is Loose. I'm standing on the gum-covered curb just outside the Musky Moose in downtown Juniper. For those without a functioning internal GPS, Juniper is nestled into the deep and defined cleavage of New Hampshire's White Mountains. This being the dog days of summer, the entire range is packed to the peaks with families and adventurous outdoorsy types. It's why my ride into town took me 3 times longer than it would out of season. To those curious rubberneckers passing by, I'm just some random eccentric, a loony local holding his empty hands chest high, eager to see what all of the commotion is about inside the popular moose-themed pub. Unknown to inquiring minds, however, I know exactly what said commotion is, and it has nothing to do with the sun-faded photocopied flyer taped to the inside of the window, advertising singer-songwriter Jensen Jasper's midweek performance. Though I will say, if you're in the area, you should really check her out. She's fantastic with a guitar in her hands, and she has a surprisingly versatile singing voice. I've heard Jensen cover Aretha Franklin, and I could have sworn I was listening to the Genuine article. I glanced down at my watch. It's an antique pocket rider passed down to me from my grandfather. I'm hoping that the traffic didn't keep me from accomplishing the task at hand. Folks who do what I do in places like Boston and Los Angeles must have a hell of a time hitting their quotas. Though I guess in the latter you at least have the opportunity to work with some of your on-screen idols. I once met a guy in a chat room who insisted he took the walk with John Wayne back in 1979. Not only is the internet filled to the brim with bullshitters shoveling their own brand of manure, but it's not exactly an easy claim to verify. Feel free to sprinkle as many grains of salt onto that one as your blood pressure will allow. As I look up from the ticking hands of my timepiece, the heavy oak door to the Musky Moose opens. A rather somber-looking paramedic, the bacon-necked collar of his sky-blue shirt a slightly darker shade than the rest, is the first to exit. I assume he's broken a sweat from having to administer continuous chest compressions, hence the dampness. I nod to him, as if he cares, but it's who exits on his heels slipping through the opening that I'm here to see. Portly with tiny Tyrannosaurus arms that flail about at his sides, the man is middle-aged with a mustache in the same demographic. The hair that remains on his globe of a head is pigment-free and wispy, unable to keep rank with the follicle density of those celic-like strands taking up residence on his upper lip. Although he looks like the kind of middle manager who fancies a short-sleeve button-up in the office, he's currently wearing the standard-issued uniform for tourists venturing into the mountains at this time of year. Cargo shorts, earth-toned flip-flops, and a t-shirt emblazoned with the state motto, "Live free or die." Unfortunately for this guy, fate chose the "or" when she took one look at his shirt. Confused, he glances around, settling his 2 scoops of sad melted ice cream eyes on me. "That's my name," he says, pointing to the empty space between my 2 hands. Again, to most people passing me by tonight, I'm not holding anything. But to those like my new friend here, sight takes on an entirely different meaning when you've succumbed to the inevitability of death. Like an Uber summoned to the airport to collect a new arrival, I'm here to let this poor sap know I'm his only lift home. "I'm Charlie Spruce," he continues, as if saying it out loud will help him to understand what's happening. It won't. If it did, I'd be out of a job. "I'm here to give you some guidance, Charlie," I say, lowering my voice so that the gathering looky-loos can't hear me address the hapless sight unseen standing directly in front of them. For all of the perks of the job, you tend to forfeit your standing in the community when you're literally standing in the community talking to nothing. But first, I need you to follow me. Before Charlie can get a question in, I let the sign fade from existence and walk away from the Musky Moose. I once again nod to the paramedic as I pass him packing his life-saving gear into the ambulance. I always do it, these little gestures of respect to the first responders I'm responding alongside of. I suppose it is out of a sense of camaraderie. The way I see it, we're not that different. Though, just as it is the case with this particularly sweaty EM in need of a new tee, they don't view the world in the same way that I do. Unlike their uniforms, my duds don't come with patches that advertise my career in soul chaperoning. I look back to make sure Charlie is still following me. He is, though he seems to have just realized that he is no longer breathing. The newly dead dad struggles to find his air. He collapses onto a park bench as we enter the town common, which is currently under occupation by stunted stoners playing a pickup game of ultimate frisbee. Can't breathe. I was hoping to get into it in a more private setting with Charlie, but I've done enough of these to know that he is at his capacity in terms of what he is willing to assume. Anyone who has dealt with the unexpected loss of a loved one, myself included, knows just how difficult it can be. In my experience with folks like Mr. Spruce, that awareness pales in comparison to the unexpected loss of yourself. Am I dead? Afraid so, I inform him. Turns out that last bite of sirloin was a little too much for you to handle. Charlie looks away and ponders something internally as the stoner's frisbee veers off course and passes directly through him, leaving a scent trail of patchouli in its wake. Are you an angel? I still chuckle at the question no matter how many times it's asked of me, every single time, without fail, including this one. Charlie is not amused. The devil, then, he asks. His eyes are fixed on the top of my head, searching for a pair of horns. No, I'm not from upstairs or downstairs, though admittedly I can't be sure that either is a real destination. I've never been. I glance back towards the musky moose. Personal preservation from public ridicule isn't the only reason that I like to do business in private. If someone like Charlie here, still unable to accept what has happened to him, catches a glimpse of his loved ones, particularly all teary-eyed and torn up, he's going to be a lot less likely to go where I'm directing him to. I can't imagine that the Spruce family is sticking around to catch Jensen Jasper's set, so my grandfather's watch isn't the only ticking clock I'm working with. I'm more of a guide, I continue. My official title is Soul Chaperon. It's my job to help you understand what has happened to you and to show you the path forward. Seeing me take part in what they assume is a back and forth without a back. The stoners are now fully convinced that I'm crazier than their weed is potent. They make the mutually accepted decision to take their game elsewhere. Forward? Charlie asks. I wave my hand in the air and a door appears above the trampled grass of the common. Like the sign I was holding earlier, the exit from this world, which is backlit by a heavenly glow that has no real discernible source, is only visible to those with the sight. Charlie studies the door intently, and a smile stretches across his face. This is the door to my bedroom closet growing up. He steps closer to it, running his fingers over a series of crudely carved dashes that ascend the frame. My mother made these. They were to track my growth. The doors I whip up always have some kind of personal connection to whoever is meant to pass through them. I know it sounds silly, but you'd be surprised how emotional people can get seeing something so ordinary. I can do some pretty wild things with the abilities I was given, but nostalgia is the most powerful tool in the Soul Chaperon toolbox. Will my mother be through there? Charlie asks, hopeful of my response. While some chaperones will say whatever it takes to meet their quota, I prefer a more honest, or at least mostly honest approach. I don't know the answer to that. I just know that if you stay, it never turns out well. It's hard to move on when you don't give yourself the option, you know? Charlie looks back at me, and for the first time I feel good about how this particular escort is progressing. In fact, it was kind of silly of me to wear my new running shoes tonight, though in my defense, I'm already down 7 pounds since taking the job. There have been more than a few runners thrown into the mix. Charlie reaches out and grabs hold of the doorknob. As he begins to turn it, he pauses and takes me in. What about my family? He asks. I glance back at the musky moose, thankful for the Spruce family's procrastination. I lost my wife to a car accident a little over a year ago. It hurt. A lot. But I'm still here. That part is true. I'm still whole. The second part I fudge a bit. Like I said, I take a mostly honest approach. Charlie offers up a thankful nod and opens the door. Another successful chaperone in the books. Or so I think. The air thickens like prison gruel left simmering on the stove too long. The humidity drops and I'm now struggling to swallow. The temperature plummets, easily 10 degrees. And even in the mountains, I know this is not a normal meteorological occurrence. Something is not as it should be. Charlie tries to pass through the threshold of his boyhood closet, but is stopped dead, no pun intended, in his tracks. A force grabs hold of him. I can't see it, but I can feel it deep inside my retracting testicles. For Charlie, this could all very well be part of the process. Having never died before, he doesn't exactly know what's normal and what's not. I, however, know without question that the spirited shit is about to hit the fan. "Charlie," I say, trying to keep my voice steady, "do me a favor and slowly step away from the I'm unable to finish my request before Charlie's eyes go wide. His appearance, the entire spectral shape of him, bulges outward like a water balloon filled from the mouth of hell's spigot. He tries to speak, but no words come out, only silvery smoke that singes the very air that it cuts through. My concentration shatters and the door fades from existence. It's just as well, because the last thing I need is something uninvited crossing over to this side. "Who's there?" I ask. I don't exactly want a response. Hearing a response means my life is about to get a hell of a lot more complicated. Unfortunately, Mick Jagger hit the nail on the head when he sang, "You can't always get what you want." "Maya," a voice acknowledges from nowhere and everywhere. Although I do not recognize the language, the tone is clear. This phantom assertion, spoken as if in the process of gargling 1,000 whirling fidget spinners, picks at the scab of emotional distress left behind since the death of my wife. In a single instance, I am terrified of everything that I know and all that I don't. Charlie swells beyond recognition, but I can see that he realizes he is about to die for a second time. His apparitional essence tears away from itself. The silvery smoke flows from the breaches in his husk of a hull. Before I can even make a guesstimate as to how to help him, something deep inside his soul detonates, and he fractures into a million star-like projectiles. I'm drenched in his infinite non-existence. Charlie is now gone, as is the unknown entity who made Charlie's pungent expungement possible. While I know I'll have plenty of questions asked of me from management without any real answers to give, right now the only thing I can think about is going home and taking a very hot and very long shower. Nothing leaves behind a lasting stain quite like another man's soul. Thank you for listening. For more information, visit thesoulchaperone.com.